please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Welcome everyone to This Week at Twitter, or Twat. You may have noticed there's one on Monday, technically two. Or was it Tuesday? Tuesday, that's it. And then one on Friday. It's because I'm putting This Week at Twitter back to Fridays. It made no sense to do it on a Monday when that would be technically Last Week at Twitter, which is Loat. That doesn't sound anywhere near as cool. But also I think because we've gotten into a bit of a rut of late, relying on playlist content, seemed a bit wrong. Monday and Tuesday should be a bit different. I think anyway. Hello Tilly. You're not going to meow for them? No, you just want to be in my way while I record. Okay. There's a cat on my desk. She likes to do that when I work. To start, we're going to go to a tweet from That Star Wars Girl. Here's a perfect example of how @YouTube is broken. I have a channel with over 200,000 subscribers. YouTube only sends notifications to around 23,000 of them. Out of those 23,000, 99.9% of them click on my videos and watch them. Imagine if YouTube actually sent notifications to all 200,000 plus that subscribe. Accompanying it are two images. One from a video titled Disney's Star Wars Fails Women, proof that men did it better, 24,000 views in 3 days. And a notification analytic thingamajiggy-doodah thing, showing that it was sent to 23.4 thousand subscribers who got the notification. That's not very good. That's quite bad. The amusing part is, Team YouTube replied, even if your subs turn on all notifications for your channel, they may have turned off notifications at the account, device, or app level. Subs that enable YouTube notifications are signed in and can receive notifications. Mr. Repsion replies, no. Do you know how often I have people complain they don't get my videos in their sub box even though they have the bell notification on? Your site is terrible and has been broken for years. A sentiment I couldn't agree more with. I retweeted Team YouTube with the following. To a lot of us, this is our job, and we rely on you to do yours. You as a platform have over the years done more to harm the creator ecosystem than good. You should be ashamed of yourselves for the stress you cause by failing your second most important assets. Guess who comes first? I say second because we are treated as second rate to those you prioritize, the advertisers themselves. Which I understand, this is a business. But when we then become, because a lot of us get buried, slaves for views, because we can barely get by as we used to be able to get by, it's not just because we hit a plateau and a steady decline as is often the case with creators, it is inevitable, let's face it. No, it's because you make changes and those changes negatively impact vast numbers of us that aren't channels like Mr. Beast. And that's not a shot at Mr. Beast, don't be stupid. But it's that super kid-friendly, ad-friendly type of content that you're okay with as opposed to other genres that have been buried for years. Yet we, as content creators, should be the most important thing to you because without us you don't have a platform. It's why many of us go to Rumble. Link, by the way, in the description to my Rumble. Please follow me there, I'd appreciate it. We're shooting for 1,000 followers by the end of the year. I wanted to start with this before we go to the next. Drachenlord was trending on Twitter. If you don't know who he is, Dankula has done a 3-part Mad Lad series on this guy. This guy is the German Christian. In the 3rd part, the Dragon Bunker was demolished after the town he lived in bought his house off him to annihilate it. Poor Dragon Bunker did not know it was coming. It deserved so much more. Courtesy of Marty McFly. #Drachenlord. Ha 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 ha. Oh my god, Reiner shelter has been found in the forest, including Reiner. I said it's still happening today. Retweeted. Drachenlord is currently living in a shelter he built for himself in the woods. They found him. That was tweeted by Dankula. Because it turns out he kind of, he went underground a bit, disappeared a little. Reply. What? I genuinely feel bad for the man. Nobody should be bullied that hard. I honestly hope he finds people who support him and get him to a safe space physically and mentally. I know he does it to himself, but empathy hits hard for him. There is a prevailing theme within Dankula's comments. One is that part 4 to Drachenlord's story is going to be quite interesting, although to be honest there isn't much to add from part 3 yet to make it into a justifiable part 4. The second is, at this point, it's kind of pathetic, and people should leave him alone. Oh, I haven't played the video yet, have I? Before we move on, I'm going to play that clip.
erzählen kann er nicht.
Next, we're going to go to the singer of Kiss, Paul Stanley. My thoughts on what I'm seeing. There is a big difference between teaching acceptance and normalizing and even encouraging participation in a lifestyle that confuses young children into questioning their sexual identification as though some sort of game, and then parents in some cases allow it. There are individuals who as adults may decide reassignment is their needed choice, but turning this into a game or parents normalizing it as some sort of natural alternative, or believing that because a little boy likes to play dress up in his sister's clothes, or a girl in her brother's, we should lead them steps further down a path that's far from the innocence of what they are doing. With many children who have no real sense of sexuality or sexual experiences caught up in the fun of using pronouns and saying what they identify as, some adults mistakenly confuse teaching acceptance with normalizing and encouraging a situation that has been a struggle for those truly affected and have turned it into a sad and dangerous fad. Replied to Paul Stanley in this instance, Paul, I know you mean well, but I don't think posting a whole paragraph sort of justifying transphobia is the way to go. I saw this because of Ranting Monkey, because Paul Stanley put out an update, with Ranting Monkey tweeting, "The struggle session worked." Paul Stanley, while my thoughts were clear, my words clearly were not. Most importantly and above all else, I support those struggling with their sexual identity while enduring constant hostility and those whose path leads them to reassignment surgery. It's hard to fathom the kind of conviction that one must feel to take those steps. A paragraph or two will remain far too short to fully convey my thoughts or point of view, so I will leave that for another time and place. And that last bit is very important, because unless you're pedantic shit, so Twitter, his initial tweet makes perfect sense. You don't want to lead children down these paths. Of course, a child needs to understand who they are. Of course they do. That takes a lifetime of understanding. Truly it does. But there is some dangerous things, I'm going to use that word because I can't think of what the actual word is, going on. And it is in turn harming children in the process. It is why I have stood by the belief no child should be put through any kind of puberty blockers or HRT until they are an adult, making an adult decision with an adult mind when they have not been conditioned by their parents, who desperately want them to be trans, which has happened and led to detransitioning on the rise. For this to have led to a second paragraph tweet, yeah, Paul Stanley must have gotten a considerable amount of flack on his initial tweet, but he did get more likes than he did quote retweets, or comments. And just before I move on, one last tweet from the initial one, a reply to him that I found quite funny. Aren't you in a band of drag queens? I mean, a drag queen band is cool and all, but you shouldn't be such a transphobe. Of course, that's the hill you want to choose to fight on and misunderstand what Paul Stanley has said in the first place. As many of you may know, on Saturday, Charles III was officially coronated, and it was quite the spectacle. As somebody that has never seen a coronation before, especially in my own country, this was quite special. I think his hands stole the show because they looked really like, well, sausages and balloons. Yeah. The second was the fact that Princess Anne sat in front of Prince Harry with her full Admiralty stuff on, yeah, her pirate hat. The feather blocked Harry's view, which was even more satisfying. There were some protests, which we'll get to in a moment, but the first tweet I want to look at is Dr. Charlotte Proudman, somebody who stood up for Amber Heard during the Amber Heard Johnny Depp defamation trial, because she's a moron. Two pictures. Spot the difference. One is taken of the coronation, because it turns out millions of people around the world, and especially the Brits, wanted to see this. It's a special moment. It brings the country together. It did last time, and it was needed last time. This, a more stripped-back version, was still needed. The second is not a picture of the United Kingdom. It is the People's Democratic Republic of the United Federated States of totalitarian North Korea. Twitter themselves had readers add context they thought people might want to know. The difference is that the citizens of the United Kingdom were not forced to attend the coronation, while the citizens of North Korea are ordered to attend by neighborhood watch units with the threat of force if they do not comply. I mean, at least they get to go outside for a bit. That's always nice, isn't it? Now work out if I'm talking about the United Kingdom or North Korea. Ash Sarkar, if you don't know who she is, she's also a moron, tweeted, "Even if you're a supporter of the monarchy, how can you agree with this kind of anti-democratic crackdown?" A retweet of Novara Media. Police have arrested anti-monarchy protesters and seized their placards reading "Not My King" this morning on the way to the coronation. I don't think they should have done that personally. I think it would have been very funny to see how well the Grenadier would have handled them had they tried to block the king, get in the way of the king, or perhaps obstruct the king. And yes, I know I just said the same thing 3 times. Tailed Feature retweeted Ash Sarkar with "Charles" and an F around find out graph. I like that image, by the way. Tailed Feature also retweeted Republic, who said, "So much for the right to peaceful protest. Hashtag not my king, hashtag abolish the monarchy," with anti-monarchists. "We're going to disrupt a historic ceremony that is literally part of how an entire country functions, and has been for hundreds of years, watched by millions of people across the world." Gets arrested. Anti-monarchists, what? I, by the way, support the right to peaceful protest. However, I do understand there is a very odd line that is blurred when you insert the royal family into this, and the coronation is one of the biggest stages. It really is. You may have noticed, Just Stop Oil did sod all, because those middle-class white kids that do politics, philosophy, economics, and history, all fake degrees, were more than likely in attendance of the coronation. Trigger Hippie, somebody who I have met, a lovely man in fact, has a live show, I believe, with somebody else. I might find it and link it in the comments down below. If he sees this, please comment with it as well so I can find it if I can't. Had replied to Ash Sarkar, where this has nothing to do with democracy. If they are English, he is their king, you don't get to vote on it. Denying it is actually treason under the 1351 Treason Act. Seizure of their placards should be the least of their problems. Now there's a point there, because we are not citizens. We are English and therefore subjects to the crown. It is not the same. It really isn't. The royal family sit well above us, removed from us. We are but the lowly oikeri, and that might seem novel and, oh, but we need a republic. I think the Empire would be a better idea at this point. Even though I do think Star Trek is better than Star Wars.